Hello and welcome to the Comics Atlas. This is the series where we talk about the complete history of comic book characters. Today is Monday, so we're going to talk about Spider-Man. We are still introducing new villains, and this week we have some heavy hitters that come to the life of Peter Parker. These stories were published during 1964, so we're still telling stories from the Silver Age. Hop on and let's begin. We jump back to issue 11, which is the return of Dr. Octopus. Right off the bat, we learn that Doc Ock is about to be released from prison. A very skeptical Peter Parker decides to keep an eye on him. Designing a spider-shaped tracer, Spider-Man waits for the newly freed man to come his way. However, the superhero gets the surprise of his life when he sees his love interest, Betty Brant, driving the Doctor away. The car is heading for Philadelphia as we cut to Betty's brother. It turns out he owns a huge debt to a criminal called Blackie Gladstone. He plans on paying said debt by using his sister to drive Dr. Octopus so he can break Gladstone out of prison. Of course, Peter follows Betty to the city of Brotherly Love and pledges to help her solve her problems. Meanwhile, Doc Ock's scheme goes as planned and Gladstone is now free. The criminal promptly betrays the Brandt siblings and Spider-Man has to go and rescue them. The final confrontation of the issue occurs on a boat. When Spider-Man is tackling Blackie, a bullet goes off, killing Betty's brother. Of course, the woman's reaction is to blame the wall crawler. It's not time for explanation as Dr. Octopus is still on the loose. Rapidly knocking off Gladstone, it's once again 1v1 between the two superpower warriors. The battle climaxes in another launch when the police arrives and both men are forced to escape. In the last page, we check on a morning Betty and Peter Parker. Betty realizes it's not Spider-Man's fault, but still wishes to never meet him again as his presence will remind her of her dead brother. Peter walks away knowing he could never tell his secret to her beloved lady. The next issue is titled Unmasked by Dr. Octopus, so we know Peter Parker, student and photographer, will actually be the one to come face to face with the crazy scientist. We are still feeling the fallout from the last issue, as now Dr. Octopus is going through the nation in a crime spree to attract Spider-Man and finish him off for good. One day, the Bugle proves once again to be the least safe building in New York when Octopus enters and kidnaps Betty Brant. Knowing that will lure Spider-Man, he tells Jonah to contact the hero and send someone to Coney Island. This will be the place for the latest confrontation between the bitter enemies. A very sick Spider-Man arrives to the island and once again a fight starts. This time, Parker is incredibly lucky. His illness reduces his strength greatly and Octopus deduces that he must be a fraud. The unmasking occurs and Peter is indeed under the mask for the villain and the press to see. But Octopus dismisses him, believing that he's an imposter and that the real Spider-Man must still be out there. Lucky break, I guess. A defeated Peter Parker is then rescued as Octopus escapes from Coney Island. The next day, Peter feels a lot better and is ready to fight. He, nonetheless, gets roasted by his aunt and Flash for his antics against Octopus. No time to rest though, as Spider-Man has to catch a bunch of animals freed from the zoo by Octopus. The man is furious that the world thinks that he was outwitted by a teenager earlier and now decides to go on a rampage. A high-altitude confrontation finally takes place above the streets of New York. This time there's resolution when they crash a studio and start a fire. Spider-Man is able to use his webbing as a shield and escapes the inferno, but his enemy isn't so lucky. Rescued by a fireman, the scientist is surrendered to the police. Taking some pictures of the action, Parker finally has one good day. In issue 13, Mysterio will arrive to butt head with Spider-Man. We open with a suspicious sequence of Spider-Man robbing a safe. The media and people of New York eat the news like hot pancakes and even Peter starts to doubt himself. Thinking maybe he does the dirty deeds in his sleep, Parker decides to locate a psychiatrist and help him solve his dilemma. This is useless and Peter gets even more depressed when Jonah unsurprisingly refuses to lend him some money for her aunt. Knowing he needs more photos, he goes on patrol, but now the whole city hates him. During all this mess, a mysterious man appears in Jonah's office after announcing his arrival. It's Mysterio. He tells Jonah to print a message for Spider-Man in his newspaper and vanishes as quickly as he appeared. Following the message, Spider-Man finds Mysterio atop the Brooklyn Bridge. Mysterio uses all the tricks in his bag and is beating Spider-Man after engulfing him in a giant smoke cloud. Peter escapes the cloud by jumping from the bridge, leading to Mysterio thinking he killed the superhero. The next day, Mysterio gets a parade and goes to the Daily Bugle, pledging to reveal his identity for a prize. Of course, Peter survived the fall, and when he catches Mysterio inside his building, he takes his chance to put a tracer on him. When Spider-Man catches Mysterio, the red costume hero tells him that he knows he's the evil impersonator. Mysterio confesses and also tells him his background. He was a stuntman and a special effects guy. Realizing his ability, he made himself a Spider-Man suit complete with gadgets that simulate his powers. Knowing the blame will be shared, he begins to commit crimes. Then he had the idea to adopt the Mysterio persona in order to capture the actual webhead and cash in on his fame. Spider-Man has none of it, as he records the conversation to prove his innocence. A battle starts, but now Spider-Man knows that Mysterio's suit jams his spider sense. After destroying the jammer, he punches and knocks the villain through his fog. The next day, the recording goes public and Spider-Man recovers his good guy reputation. The last issue I want to cover today is issue 14, notable for the first appearance of the Green Goblin. A gloomy man is working in his laboratory and finishing the last touches of his flying broomstick. In the next panel we are shown this man is the Green Goblin and now he has the ability to fly. He meets with the enforcers from one of the last issues and enlists them to take revenge on Spider-Man. His plan starts to take shape when he convinces a Hollywood producer to make a movie with himself, the enforcers, and the superhero. Spider-Man and the Green Goblin meet for the very first time when Webhead gets suspicious of sightings of a flying broomstick. Oddly, their first encounter isn't a violent one, as the Green Goblin only notifies him about the movie deal. After talking to the director, Jameson, his aunt and Betty Brant, Peter is bound for Hollywood. Now on location, in the middle of the desert, filming is set to start. However, acting quickly turns into action as it's apparent that both the enforcers and the Green Goblin really want to hurt Spider-Man. The battle moves to a cave where the hero tackles and defeats the enforcers one by one. Suddenly, all hell breaks loose when it's only Spider-Man and the Green Goblin. The Hulk breaks through the cave. Of course, Spider-Man is no match for the Green Monster, so his only hope is to either escape or make him go away. After a brief scuffle, the Hulk goes away, as do both Parker and the Goblin. The issue ends when we see the Green Goblin already scheming his next step, as not even we, the readers, know his identity just yet. The issues I just covered are key for the future of Spider-Man comics. We meet Mysterio for the first time and Dr. Octopus meets Spider-Man's real identity, even if he doesn't realize it. The most important issue was issue 14 and the first encounter with the Green Goblin. His first plan wasn't particularly evil, but we know it only gets better from this point on. The identity of the villain remains a mystery for quite a long time, as at this point in the comics, knowing his identity doesn't really have any kind of punch to it. On the Peter Parker front, a plot I didn't cover is Liz Allen starting to flirt with Peter as both Betty and Flash grow jealous. It's just a way to create tension between Peter and Betty, as Mr. Parker isn't interested in the blonde high schooler. It's still business as usual with Aunt May and J. Jonah Jameson, as our hero is still pinching for good old bugle money. Compared to some of the latest issues we've covered, the endings of this chapter were a bit lighter for our hero. Let's hope his string continues on the future. Anyway guys, that's it for today. Don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe down below. This is the Comics Atlas and I wish you all a nice existence.